Hi, today is March 30th, 2021, and I'm just going to float around with different questions people have asked me about death. My name is Eliza DeVries, and I am a medium and an evolutionary astrologer. And beautifully, these two studies, these two experiences of life, seem to marry together well. The spiritual astrology is very much showing within our chart the soul intentions which we set out before we came into form, and the challenges that we knew we were going to face as children, and the times of different transits in our life of the heavier planets were times that we knew we would confront deeper issues within ourselves. Because really, our pathway here is to uncover our true self and to take the gifts from that true self and to share them with others, to serve through using our gifts. Before we come in, the higher the evolution of the soul, the more discriminating the choice by that soul as to which body it's going to assume and what are going to be its soul intentions. And there is a conclave that we sit with and we decide at what moment we wish to be born, to what kind of family we wish to be born, to what mother, what womb we wish to rest in, and the entire unfoldment before we even move into the little fetus, which sometimes the soul observes the fetus growing and is not inside the mother all the time. Sometimes the soul is observing it and comes in at 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, or even at birth, at the moment of birth. Oftentimes you will see a soul struggle during its birth, during its time of its mother's labor. It will want to linger in the womb. It will go overtime on the labor and sometimes can take 24 or 36 hours to be born. It is in a resistant stage. The soul knows ultimately it's going to pass through that birth canal, but for reasons according to its intentions, its karma, and the difficulty of the challenges it's going to face, it may have a few last-minute regrets or resistances to commencing what is known to be a very difficult life. My daughter Gigi was 3 weeks overdue. 2 reasons for that. First of all, she wanted to come in as a Scorpio, so she passed through the sign of Libra and waited an extra 3 weeks so that she could be born as Scorpio. And secondly, Gigi had a very challenged life from childhood. She had an extremely difficult birth. In those days, they used forceps, which sounds hideous now, but at the time, she had a huge head and she didn't want to come through that canal. She wanted to stay with me and rest inside me, and they literally had to bring her out. So she always had on her forehead 2 little indentations where those forceps had pinched her. Her chart was, I'm speaking specifically about her, her chart was filled with a lot of challenges and artistic capabilities and great endeavors of like a lot of artistic sensitive gifts, but also a hypersensitivity to the earth plane itself. I won't go through her entire chart right now, but I will say that it was an extremely challenging chart, and she met it with incredible courage and compassion. These are the two traits that I would attribute the most to her. So I would, on conversation with her, since she has crossed over, we talked about what were her soul intentions. Her soul intentions were to come in and to really feel the suffering of others, to feel what other people went through so that her heart would grow in divine compassion. Her other intention was to be with me. We had been together in almost every life and literally came from what I would call the same soul stream. Now, there are souls that will come in soul groups. They've all been together before, and they set it up, friends and enemies, karmic situations, they set it up that they will all come in together and work out karma from other lives, or simply they want to be together and grow together as a group from other lives. So sometimes the person in your life that may be providing you with the greatest challenge, the greatest suffering, could have been someone with whom you had an enormous karma in another life, or a way for you to grow in compassion and kindness and learning the power of divine forgiveness. When I look at my own chart, I knew before I came in that I would have a separation from my mother at age 4. And if you look at my chart, my moon, which is the mother, was in an absolute square to Saturn, the father, and it went to a point of square exactly to the degree when I was age 4. So I knew as a soul that I would be motherless, that I would grow up without being around a mother. I also knew that I would grow up with a father who was brilliant, Saturn in Gemini. My moon in Pisces, the mother would be a very sensitive, very artistic, creative, often hard to grasp who that person was, hard to get a handle on who my mother really was. I saw her till age 22, at which time she passed. And so what I'm trying to say with this is your chart will reveal your siblings, your mate, where your mate fits into your life, your parents, the understanding of sexual or physical or emotional abuse. It will show up in the chart. Now you may say, well, why would I set up a god-awful path like that? Well, you may have wanted to learn divine forgiveness. You may have wanted to learn a deeper understanding of how other people have suffered with sexual issues or with, or you may yourself have gotten out of hand in other lives and actually created not necessarily violence, but put somebody in a position where you had authority over that person and you abused that authority in some way. So in this lifetime, there would be a period where you felt victimized by somebody else. What I'm trying to say about the chart, about the soul intentions, is that there are profound soul intentions set up for one reason only, and that is for growth, to learn how to love, to learn how to know ourselves better, and to heal the deepest wounds within our being, and to help heal the wounds of others whom we may not have harmed in another life or may have harmed in another life. To learn to create peace and forgiveness and loving understanding, and to drop judgment. Now, we could have come into parents that were extremely judgmental so that we would see the horrific effects of being judgmental. Some of us may never cast that away. We may become judgmental ourselves. But the ultimate purpose of extreme behavior within our family when we were children is for us to gain a greater understanding about ourselves. A child that is abandoned by one or the other parent or lives in a lot of isolation and loneliness often came in to grow quickly, to seek out its soul essence at a young age. So a lot of the kids that you see today that are going through a lot of challenges that we may have had more simplified childhoods, they knew they were going to come into this, and according to their generation and their chart and how that generation is sitting within their chart, their soul intention of how they wish to learn to grow is clearly available. We have within the framework of our chart 2 or 3 times of what I would call exit points, but our true departure from form 99% of the time is something that we already had preordained. And we could, although in modern times they are keeping people alive longer and stretching out that time when they really and truly, if they had no fear of death, could let go much sooner. So the very old generation today, unless they're in really good health, their extension of life is not really necessary according to what my guides tell me. They could just, like an animal does, withdraw slowly from life and let go. The thing that's holding them near is the fear of death, of what's going to happen of the other side, or of not wishing to leave people that are still in physical form. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that people that you have loved greatly, people that you are very close to, they will not reincarnate while you are still alive. They will watch over all those whom they love dearly and will not come back into another form until all those people have greeted them and there is a gathering on the other side and a decision of who does what and with whom. Say a woman or a man has been married to 2 wives, been widowed the first time, and really loved that wife with all his heart and soul, and then had another marriage where he loved that person with all his heart and soul. And you say, well, what happens when he crosses? Well, the ones that I've spoken to said they remain in close, loving connection, but they do often end up with one partner. Or, according to how the love is expressed and how the love has been shared amongst them in other lives, they could end up all living together. So it's an individual experience. Many of you, when you cross, you will not only have people that you know greeting you, but you will have literally a party or a dinner or a gathering of people that you did not know on earth, that did not reincarnate with you in this life, but are waiting for you. And when you see them, you will feel such a glow of love toward them. And you will recognize them at a soul level, having had experience and love and connection and vibrational alignment in other lives. So there will be many that greet you that you may not have seen on this earth. The other thing I wanted to say about the pets that I forgot to mention yesterday, some pets come in and they're with you and they love you and there's a beautiful bond, but they're not your soul guardian pet. They're not your, what I would call, like bingo, my heart dog. some of those animals will run free in a pack with other dogs. They will visit you, they will be happy to see you, but they will not be up close and personal dogs or cats or birds or monkeys or horses. Others will have such a profound soul connection with you that when you cross, they will be with you, just as they are now with you, out of form, with you all the time. Bingo sits by me in every reading. He never leaves my side. So it's those animals, and you know in your heart who those ones are, the ones that you just felt devastated when they died. You loved them all, you wept over them all as they crossed. We've had so many animals, loved them all dearly. But the heart dogs, or the heart cats, or the heart hamsters, or whatever they are, or bunnies, you'll know which one is that, and they've been with you through many lives, and they are with you now in spirit form, and they will greet you and live with you on the other side. So people ask me, somebody asked me, when are animals reincarnate? How long is the turnaround time? Well, I can tell you, I have Bingo here in a spirit form, but I also have a part of Bingo, part of the soul. The soul can separate part of itself in my dog, Lucanus. And I see it many, many times. He sits in the same chair. He sleeps on the same part of the house. He has the same way of talking that Bingo did. And he's absolutely glued to me and gazes deep into my eyes all the time. There's a part of Bingo living within him. He's also joyfully happy and ecstatic when he's in my presence, and yet he loves everybody else. So when did he reincarnate? 2.5 weeks after Bingo died. So the turnaround time, like the lady I gave the reading to on Sunday, her dog's got a turnaround time. It's going to reincarnate in 2 months. And it was interesting because the man phoned her right after the reading, as I told you yesterday, and said, in 2 months I'm breeding the dog, the father of the dog, to another female and giving you a puppy. And that was exactly what we had seen. Do they stay in the same species? No. They usually stay, if they're a dog, they stay as a dog, usually. As a horse, they stay as a horse. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they cross, into another animal. Like, for example, my friend Valade, her cat was a rabbit in another life. Now, if you look at Chinese astrology, the sign for the rabbit is the same as the sign for the cat. So they're interchangeable. So some species have links, and they're interchangeable. The animals, above all things, love freedom. So if they greet us and they stay with us, it is truly a soul choice that they want to be with us. Absolutely one-on-one. Getting back to Gigi, I want to say that I've given a lot of readings to people. I've had a lot of friends. As I've told you, I've given over 9,000 readings in my life. And I've given a lot of readings where, as I'm giving the reading to someone, I see the potential for suicide existing with one of the children or cousins or nephews or husbands or relations within that family. Now, I'm not always seeing that, and the reason is because that time of departure was meant to be. For whatever the soul reason, it was meant to be. But I would say in 6 or 7 instances out of all those readings, I did see the proclivity for suicide, and it was often a soul that had come in and had committed suicide in another life, had wanted to get past that point of depression in this life. And so the message was relayed to me and said, could you please check on this person? Not in a, I would not dump that on somebody in a heavy way, but I would say this person is seriously depressed and needs help right away. That person is in a deeply hollow place and is aching, and no amount of love is filling the void, and something needs to be done. They need help. So that occurs just occasionally with me. The other thing I want to tell you is that I do see often in readings death either of someone within a family or of the person I'm giving the reading to. I've seen my own time of death. I'm not allowed to tell people when they're going to die. It's not my role, but I do see it. There was only one time that I was allowed to give a time of death, and that was, there was a very, very famous Brazilian healer. Her name was Lina, and she came up from Brazil to teach healing here every year. And she was so famous in Brazil that when she would arrive back in Brazil, she would be greeted by thousands of people at the airport waiting for her heavenly touch. She was so powerful. She was a friend of mine, and she, being extremely intuitive, and said, when my friend told her about me, she said, I need to see her. This was at the very end of her life. And she said, I want to know when I'm going to die. And when I spoke to my friend, I said, I'm not allowed to tell people that. And so I went into meditation. I said, this is the one time you're allowed to tell this person, because they have already been given the date. They want to confirm that date, and they want to prepare. They have absolutely no fear of death. They're ready to be received by bands of angels for all the good work they've done. So he drove me out, and I went to this tiny little modest house way out in East Los Angeles. She would come to the most modest places. She was such a humble lady. And I was taken down to a little back room, and there she was sitting. She was a black lady, and she just had a candle on, and all I could see were these beautiful eyes looking at me. And she said, she was so sweet and kind to me, and she said, hello, my dear, I just want to know that one thing. And I said to her, February 16th, I think it was, I can't remember the year, this was about 15 years ago. And I gave her the date, and she looked at me and smiled with the sweetest smile. And she opened the drawer, and she took out a piece of paper, and it said that date on it. And she said, thank you. And she blessed me, and I left. That was it. And she was truly a remarkable soul. And sure enough, 4 months later, she passed on that day. And there was a huge celebration in Brazil. So the reason I'm mentioning that is I am given that gift of the knowing of death. And with my own daughter, when she was 9 or 8, I can't remember which, they came to me, the guides, and they said, your daughter will not be with you past her 40s. She will die young. And I looked at her, and my heart felt so heavy, but we had so much love and joy and celebration of life and compatibility and synchronicity of spirits that we went forward, and I didn't really ponder it or think about it all the time. Then again, when she was 28, I had a meditation. They came and they said, you celebrate with her, love her with all your heart and soul. She will be leaving in her mid-40s. And, you know, we hear these things, even myself, who is supposed to believe and have faith, and yet I still went on like, oh, I'm going to prevent this, or I'm going to help this not to happen, etc., etc. And here we went on, and we did all these things together. We became healers together. We trained horses together. We everything we did together. We were just the greatest, greatest friendship. And then at age 40, when she was age 45, I had a dream, and my guides came to me in the dream, and they go, she has a year to 2 years left. And I saw this girl lying peacefully who had passed, and then all of a sudden I realized it was Gigi. And I realized, oh my God, could happen. And I never had told Gigi this. I never told her any of it, because it's not, again, my place to pass that on to someone else. And 6 months later, after that, she was diagnosed, and I knew that she was going to go. We knew that we would do the radiation. You always hope that something isn't right, and even when the doctors tell you you've got 4th stage and you're going to go, you've got this part of you that says, I'm going to pour my mother love in, and I'm going to beat the odds here, But of course, about 2 months before she passed, I still had not said a word to her about it. And I said, Gigi, and she goes, Mama, I know what you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me that you always knew I would pass very young. She said, I always knew it too. She said, why do you think I had such a glorious celebration of life with the person I loved the most? Because I knew it was coming, and I was just gonna live every darn moment here. And so, yes, there are times we know, but and I said, well, so we had this way where we both already knew what we knew. And shared it finally, because I was given the permission, and it was obvious she was on her way out. So I'm sharing all this to say with you, everyone around you, we are here to forgive and to give. It is our life to do this in whatever manner, in the quietest, most humble manner. One of my dearest friends, Mark, his mother just died. His mother lived the most humble, background, quiet life of sweet, angelic presence in the lives of all of her children, all of her friends, her church, her choir, her minister, supporting everyone with such modesty and humility. And when I was giving a reading over the weekend, she came to me, and what had happened after she passed from COVID, hundreds of angels came and picked up this sweet, tender little lady and took her right into the center of a band of angels. She literally was an angel in human form. And Mark said, when you told me that, because I phoned him after, I was in tears of joy for her life. And all she does is sing with the angels now. She's in an ecstatic place. And she looks about 12. She looks so beautiful. Anyway, I just wanted to share that to close the reading. So we will talk about, I want you to send me questions. I will answer anything you want to know. I've been asked everything about this by all sorts of people in all situations, even people that have been dying, and I'll talk to you about that, those end-of-life readings and what those are like. They're wonderful. They're amazing, especially with souls that have really lived a good, honest, incredible life with all of its screw-ups and its joys and its passion and its loss. I love you all, and thank you for listening and staying with me through this video. God be with you, and thank you for your friendship. If you would like a personal reading, contact me at angelicmercy44@gmail.com. God be with you, and let's all remember to have mercy for each other, sweet, gentle forgiveness, and give and give and give, because we're here to learn about our heart beyond all else. Thank you.